75% cotton, 25% linen, their cloth. And that's why, after they go through the washing, they still work. This is the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Both of these last two buildings, if you would like to go on a tour, you have to go early in the day, before 9, preferably about 8, and get what is called a time ticket. They are free. They have the time that you come back later in the day to go on the tour. There's another place that requires time tickets, the Capitol. You have to go to the east front of the Capitol to the Capitol Visitor Center. There you can get the time tickets for the Capitol. And when it's open, the Washington Monument requires time tickets. On our right, Department of Agriculture, left, Department of Agriculture. On the left, the U.S. National Forestry Service. And in front of us, more Department of Agriculture. Agriculture is the second largest U.S. department, with the second largest number of employees. Anyone know the largest U.S. federal department with the most employees? They have a whole Army, Navy, and Air Force full of employees. Department of Defense. People used to say that agriculture had more employees than there are farmers in the United States. We checked it out, and it's not true, so we won't say that. Look on our right. Up on the side of the building, there are carvings of American farm animals. Up there you see horses, cows, goats, sheep, turkeys, but you don't see any ducks. So we give agriculture a great big whack at that. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. On our left is the only office building in the National Mall. That is the Department of Agriculture building. On the other side of the mall, at this intersection, you could look over there and see a building with a green dome. That building is the Natural History Museum that's filled with animals and minerals. Anyone know the famous mineral in that building? It's blue. The Hope Diamond. Over in that direction, a flat concrete roof, that's the Smithsonian American History Museum, that's full of Americana, that's called America's Attic. Up there you can see all the First Lady's inaugural ball gowns. Also over there is Archie Bunker's chair, Dorothy's ruby slippers. These three buildings are art galleries out front here. In the back is the very first Smithsonian Museum that started in 1846. Today, people call that the Smithsonian Red Castle, and it's a fascinating building, still open to the public free. Upstairs in that building is the headquarters of the Smithsonian Institution. Downstairs, they have examples of the exhibits in the other 17 Smithsonians. They also have a sarcophagus with the remains of James Smithson. He was the Englishman who sent his fortune to the United States so we would have an institution to increase and spread knowledge among the population. James had been born the illegitimate son of the Duke of Northumberland, who never acknowledged that fact. And throughout his life, James had big troubles in the British class system, in spite of his success as a scientist and a businessman. So when he heard the United States was going to try to have a classless society, he left us his fortune. And when we got it, it was a chest full of gold. The men who received that thought they could make it grow by investing it. They invested it and lost it all. So Congress had to fork up the money to initiate the Smithsonian Institution, and after that initial injection of money, it has got a long line on its own. second Smithsonian Museum that's under reconstruction. They're putting it in. That opened in 1881, and that's where James Garner Hall. On the left is the Hirshhorn Reward. Mr. Hirshhorn came to this country when he was 6 years old from Latvia with very poor parents. By the time that man was 14 years old, he had demonstrated already that he was a financial genius. He was a stockbroker that had more than $100,000. And by the time he was 19, he was a multinational, multi-billion-dollar businessman. And when he died at an old age, he had millions and millions and billions of dollars. All throughout his life, he collected ultra-modern art and sculpture. He had a fascinating collection, and when he died, he left that to the country, along with $14 million to build that building to display it in. Today, people call that the Smithsonian Concrete Dome. On our left is the most visited museum in the world. 3 million people go through there every year. Anybody know that museum's name? Air and Space Museum, the most visited in the world. Smithsonian also has the 4th most visited museum in the world. Old Stones and Bones, the Natural History Museum, is the 4th most visited museum in the world. Coming up on the right is the Voice of America. They began to broadcast in 1943 to counteract Nazi propaganda. They still broadcast today in more than 40 languages to every country in the world except one. Who do you think that is? Us, the U.S.
Oh.
Over there is the newest Smithsonian, Museum of the American Indian. That was designed to remind you of a windswept canyon out in the southwest United States. Most people say that's what it reminds them of. You can see that there are no corners on that building. All the corners have been rounded off. They say that's because most Native American cultures believe evil spirits lurk in corners, and the result, most of their buildings and their museum have no corners. I had a pastor once when I said that. She said, "You know what, Captain Bucky? I meant it. That's why my boss's office is in the corner." In front of us is the Capitol. On the far right is the House wing. On the far left is the Senate wing. Both have flags up, and that tells us they're in session.